What's up, YouTube? So I'm here in my hotel room in Chicago right now, visiting for a couple days, about 5 days, seeing some family out here, and it's a little past midnight, getting ready for bed. But I was just kind of thinking about talk I had with my uncle today, and now that I'm kind of taking some time off work and have a little more quiet time to just spend time with family and reflect on life, it got me thinking about some things, so just thought I'd share it. But we were sitting down for a meal today, and my uncle's probably one of the only people, other than his mother, my grandmother, who I feel like has really been able to kind of see past any like mask or face that I might put on to try to kind of like hide talking about the real thing that's going on in my life. Like, maybe you have, maybe you haven't had someone like that in your life, but like they can always see directly right through you. And that can be very intimidating, but it can also be um, really wonderful if you're brave enough to accept it. And I don't know if it was quite that intense today, but we just had a couple nice heart to heart conversations, and one of them was he asked me in regards to my writing, the book which I've already written, and, my plans for the future. He asked me about how do my parents factor into what I write about? Like, how do I honor my parents with my writing? And I was pleasantly surprised with the question. I thought it was a very nice question. I think there's kind of two different ways. I think in some ways, the characters I explore with my writing are different versions of myself if I had come from more of a broken family, or if I had to live my life without the loving parents that I did have. What would things look like for me in that case? And I think a lot of what I like to explore as a writer and as an artist, and I think just as a person in general, is trying to bridge gaps in understanding with myself, but also help me to understand and come into relationship with other people more as well. Because a lot of my best friends in life, really haven't come from the best homes, but my friends are really great people, and I think that having had them in my life, it's made me much more compassionate to people who like really disagree with me than maybe I otherwise would have been, because I've seen, that just the miraculous level people can get to despite really not having a lot of people in their corner. Um, that they're still amazing people, and like what could they have been had they had a lot more love and nurturing growing up. And then, on the flip side with me, having had such loving parents that I do have, how much worse could my life have been if I didn't have them in my corner? And, a lot of what I write kind of does explore that a little bit, I never write about myself, but I do think about these things sometimes. So I was kind of explaining this to him, and our conversation, as usual, kind of meandered through different topics. And eventually, because me and him are quite similar, I asked him, you know, given that you're older than me, quite a bit older than me, in some ways, I'm talking to like a version, a different version, but a version of myself in the future what would you tell me in terms of like what you feel like you've learned in terms of dealing with other people, relating to them, how much to help them, how much not to? And he gave a very simple answer. I think a lot of the truest and best answers in life are quite simple. You know, he said, focus on tending to yourself, to your soul, to serving God best. And when God's ready to put something on your heart or tell you what to do, he will show you. And I think that that's really true. You know, we're Orthodox Christians, so we come from uh, a church that has apostolic succession. You know, we believe that we're the true church, that we go back to Christ, and that there's a succession of the apostles and kind of a tradition of carrying on the word and the teachings and the traditions through time. And to me, this is just always inherently made sense. And, you know, kind of to tie everything that I'm talking about together, the common thread, I believe, is that carrying on and passing something on through the generations. I think that it's a wonderful thing. I think that parenthood is a wonderful thing. I think that family and community and the church coming together as a people under God is an important thing. I think having a foundation and having principles and believing in the truth and fighting for that and caring for it and tending to it is what keeps reality in line. It's what keeps our spirit and our mental health in line. It's what gives us a clear answer in a world that seems increasingly chaotic nowadays. You know, another thing I write about a lot is about the dangers of too much technology because if it surpasses a certain level, people just become. I don't believe that they truly become obsolete, but I think that they kind of make themselves feel obsolete because what they value and what they want exceeds anything that they can do themselves. So they outsource it to technology and artificial systems, and it's not real. It's just not. But it's exciting and it's mysterious, whereas tradition is has already been explored. It's a gift. It's given to us. But you know, you have to care for it and you have to keep it strong and you have to pass it on. And if you don't do that, then um, I do still believe that it exists, but there's just a lot more people who don't know about it. They're not given it. It kind of burned out with whoever failed to live up to the responsibility to carry it forward. So I think whether or not you're a writer, an artist, a content creator, or just anyone in the world trying to find their place today, I don't think that the answer comes from how many followers you have or how much money that you make or how much attention you can get or you know achieving these super high goals that make you stand out. I don't think that that's the way forward, but in America that's pretty much the only thing we've been taught. You know, it's either be the best, be the champ, be hyper successful, go to war with anything that's against what you believe in, or the flip side, which is like you're perfect no matter if you just uh, sit around and do nothing, or you're perfect whether or not you do horrible things because you're free to do whatever you want. I think that both of those are missing the mark and missing the point of what tradition has tried to pass down to us. And if you haven't had parents who were supportive and loving. I think that there's an opportunity for adventure in your life where you weren't necessarily given the tradition, or something wasn't passed along to you through your childhood, or through maybe the conventional way of doing it, but it's still an opportunity for you to go out and find that somewhere. If you didn't have a good dad or a good mom, you can still find a good teacher or a good priest or a good, you know, someone else. I don't know. If you're in school, maybe a good coach, maybe a good teacher, someone who maybe you can make yourself a little bit vulnerable and open up to them and say, hey, can you have these conversations with me? And I mean, be smart about it. You don't just full on give yourself to someone you don't know, but I think that it's an opportunity for adventure and to search for that truth that ties us all together. So I think that that's really what I wanted to come on here and say is, I love writing, I love making music. I In many different ways, I try to do the best that I can. But all that stuff, it's fun and it's interesting and it entertains me. But most of what just brings me peace is spending time with my family, spending time with friends, spending time with people who I love, having conversations between the two of us that, though in this case, I might repeat a little bit on YouTube, mostly just remain private and is a special thing between us and doesn't have to turn into anything, right? We just appreciate it. It stays in your heart. I think that fostering your soul and your spirit is something that makes the most sense because you're building something that is eternal and it's not something that's just going to pass away. So, if I can challenge you in anything in this video, it's to um, really ask yourself what matters to you, what ultimately matters. If you can envision a beautiful and meaningful life for yourself, what would that look like? And how can you challenge yourself to maybe do something uncomfortable that moves you towards that goal? Um, my parents have risked a lot, they've sacrificed a lot to give me and my sister a wonderful life. And I honestly don't think I've hit that level of sacrifice yet that my dad did at my age. So, that's an opportunity for me to step up. And what better reason to do that than love and appreciation? Sometimes it is that simple. So, hope you all are well. Not sure who might view this, but whoever you are, I appreciate you and I believe in you. So, have a good day, night, whatever time it is, and catch you on the next video. Bye.